gonna go out on a limb and say that there is money to be made on any clothing brand you can think of. Even the most garbage clothing brand that you could think of, like say it out loud right now. What clothing brand are you like, you can't make money on that? Say it out loud and I'm telling you, you can. There is money to be made, but you need to know these 9 things. So let's get into it. Hi everyone, my name is Becky Park. I am a part-time reseller and I've been reselling since December of 2017, which is crazy. And I'll be honest with you, I live in a small college town. It's not a very metropolitan area. We don't live around a lot of malls or anything like that. We have one shopping mall in our town, and I think it's the only shopping mall for honestly miles and miles and miles. I don't have access to a lot of really cool brands that resellers talk about all the time, the kinds of brands that automatically sell for like $75. I mean, to be honest with you, I still get excited when I find like Anthropologie and Free People because it's not something that I come across very often. And so I have honestly been reselling primarily bread and butter brands since I started reselling. And over the years, I have learned that there is good money in those brands as long as you know what to look for. So we're going to talk about 9 things that you need to keep in mind if you are also, like me, going to sell bread and butter brands online on different reselling platforms. This video is kind of an extension of a video that I uploaded not too long ago, and that video covers 22 specific women's bread and butter brands and kind of what to look for when it comes to those brands, and I will put a link for it down in the description. And I just want to thank you right now because the response to that video has been great. And so I thought I would make a more general video, not necessarily focusing on brands, but just if you want to sell bread and butter for good money, how do you do it? So if you enjoy content like this, if you want to learn more about how to make money on bread and butter brands, because like me, you just don't really have access to the higher end stuff, definitely make sure that you subscribe to my channel because I do plan on uploading a lot more content like this in the near future. So let's get right into the first tip, and that is to know what kinds of clothes are worth the most money. This is universal and not tied down to a specific brand, and this is something that I talked a lot about in that women's bread and butter video, but in almost every single brand that I mentioned in that video, a moneymaker was the category of outerwear, or the category of vintage, or the category of shoes. And what that means to me is that the first place I need to go when I step foot inside of a thrift store or a consignment store, I need to go to the outerwear section. Yes, those things are probably going to be priced a little bit higher, but you are going to find things that are worth a lot more than if you start in the t-shirt section, for example. And so if you know what kinds of things are worth the most money to begin with, what's going to resell for the most amount, that's where you should focus your time and energy. So personally, the route that I would take if I were you at the thrift store or consignment store is I would start with outerwear. I would then move into shoes, and then I would move into bags. If you have time, I would look at things like jeans and just bottoms in general. After that, I would move into dresses, and then the very last place I would go is tops. There's just the least amount of money in t-shirts and blouses and sweaters and sweatshirts. And that's not to say that you can't find good money in those areas. I remember one time I was at my local thrift store. I already told you how crummy my local thrift stores are, but I found a Moncler t-shirt in one of my thrift stores, and that t-shirt sold for like $35 very quickly just because it said Moncler on it. So sometimes you'll strike gold, but you're gonna have to sift through so many pieces to find the few that can make you good money. So I would start in the outerwear section, and chances are the majority of the pieces in that outerwear section are going to make you more money than anything you find in the t-shirt section. The second thing you need to know in order to make good money selling bread and butter brands is what's trending. I've said this in a video and I'll say it again. I think there's more value in picking up something that's very trendy in a brand that people might turn their nose up at versus an item that isn't trending right now, but it's by a really high-end brand. So for example, I don't think that there's a lot of value in the brand Maurice's. Not a lot of pieces from Maurice's is going to sell for very much. However, if you find a vintage Penny Lane Afghan jacket from Maurice's from the 70s, that is going to be worth so much more than finding, let's say, a dress from 8 years ago from a brand like Reformation. Reformation is a popular brand. People get excited when they find certain pieces by Reformation. But if you find something old that no one really cares about, even though the Reformation brand, in my opinion, is much more popular and you generally get more money for it than Maurice's, you're gonna make so much more on that Penny Lane jacket from Maurice's because it is so trendy right now. And that dress from 8 years ago from Reformation, nobody cares about it anymore. This is gonna sell well, it's gonna sell fast, this is gonna sit, and you're gonna make $18 on it. So how do you know what's trending? That's the hard part, I think. If you're not really excited about fashion, if you don't keep up with the trends, it is hard to know. And I do have a few tips under this umbrella. One thing I suggest is go to the mall, and even if like the only stores in your mall are stores like Forever 21 and H&M and Zara, that's okay. Those fast fashion stores, they are making in mass quantity the things that are trending right now. So even though they're not of the highest quality, even though this isn't necessarily the kind of stuff that I think you should be on the lookout for in terms of what you're going to pick up at the thrift stores, you will be able to get a sense for what is popular right now, what are people wearing. Also, while you're at the mall, just look at the people around you. Look especially at the young people, look at the high schoolers, the college students, those in their 20s. See what they're wearing, and most likely they are showing what is trending at the moment. So do some people watching, do some product research, go to different stores, see what the trends are, but that's one way to just like see it in person and soak it all in. I would also look at fashion magazines, look at magazines like Vogue and Style, even like celebrity gossip magazines like In Touch Weekly and Us Weekly. I think that the more editorialized magazines like Vogue, they're going to show you kind of an elevated version of what a lot of these trends are based off of and just kind of give you an overview of the direction that fashion is going. And then if you look at those celebrity gossip magazines, you'll see a lot more of like what celebrities are wearing, which means that's what regular people want to wear. And you'll just see examples of, what is trending by seeing what celebrities are wearing. I also think the internet is a great resource, specifically if you can follow certain bloggers or fashion influencers on Instagram, people who seem to have a really good pulse on today's fashion. I think if you just kind of visit those pages every once in a while, you'll be able to get a sense of what is popular. And one way to know whether or not someone has a lot of influence is when they make a recommendation, does their recommendation sell out? I love following this one fashion blogger. I don't remember her actual name, but her blog is Extra Petite. I think I like her because she's Asian, she's petite, she's similar in stature and size to me, and she and I are in similar life stages. She's got a couple young kids. She likes to dress somewhat professionally. She's not like going out clubbing and stuff like that. And so I tend to gravitate towards her content. That's not to say that she's the most fashion forward blogger out there. I always get so annoyed when I see a post from her like 5 or 6 days late and she's recommended something really cute. Maybe it's like a really cute dress or something and I want it. I get mad when I see it 5 days later because I know most likely that item is gone. It's sold out because of her influence. And other people, I'm sure too, like people will stumble across those things on their own. But when she recommends something, a lot of people go running to that site that she has linked and they're gonna buy that item, oftentimes causing that site to run out of that item completely. And that's because her influence is great. And that's because she has a pretty strong pulse on what is popular for women who are similar to her. So if you can find some of those kinds of bloggers, people with those kinds of Instagram or YouTube accounts, they're going to be extremely informative when it comes to what is popular and trending right now. And I would love to hear from you. Let me know down in the comments which fashion bloggers, who on Instagram are you following to stay up to date with today's trends. Let me know. We can all learn from each other, but I would love to add more people to my list. The final tip I'll give you when it comes to how to learn about what's trending is a resource that I use called Reseller's Edge University. Reseller's Edge University is kind of a hybrid of a course and a community, and there's a lot of different components to it. It is the brainchild, if you will, of Kaylee Elaine and Trash Pandas. What they do is they educate people who are part of their community on what's trending and what to be on the lookout for and how to thrift and just all different kinds of things. And it is great for any kind of reseller, whether you haven't even begun yet or whether you are making $10,000 a month. Like, there is something there for everybody. But I think probably one of the most helpful and useful things that they do is provide education in the form of live calls. Like, there's live Zoom calls once a week on what is trending. What should I be on the lookout for? Specifically for people who aren't finding those high-end brands. Trash pandas, they are people who love to source at the bins. And at the bins, oftentimes you're just trying to find things that are more style-based that you can buy for super cheap and hopefully sell online for a good amount of money. Chances are you're not going to find a lot of really high-end brands at the bins, but if you know what styles to be on the lookout for and you pick good styles up consistently, you can make really good money that way, even if the brand name is nothing to get excited about. I am an affiliate for Resellers Edge University. I will have my affiliate link down in the description below. I forget exactly what the discount is. I will put that information right here. But if you sign up using my code, which is BECKYPARK, you will save that amount on your first month with Resellers Edge University. And the people over at Resellers Edge University actually graciously offered to let me run a giveaway on my channel if you would like to win a free month's worth of Resellers Edge University. That gives you access to all of the videos within their course. That gives you access to the weekly Zoom calls and to the BOLO list that Kaylee has. That's really good. That gives you access to the Facebook group. So if you would like to enter that giveaway, just leave a comment what your favorite bread and butter brand is. And that way we can all learn from each other, even just looking through the comments and seeing what bread and butter brands people make good money on. So if you'd like to enter that giveaway, go ahead and enter down below and I will close the giveaway. I'll pick a winner in a week's time. So just look at when this was uploaded. You have a week from that point to enter the giveaway. The next tip that I'll share with you is to know a little bit about the brand that you have before you. And this is what I mean. Most brands have a target customer in mind. And to some degree, I would say maybe that's not true of like the Sheins and the Forever 21s of the world, because they're kind of trying to appeal to everyone because they're trying to just keep up with the trends and have something that fits every single popular trend at that time. But I would argue that most mall brands, most just bread and butter brands that you find often, at the thrift store and consignment stores, most of them have a target audience. For example, I'll use J. Jill. J. Jill, I believe, is catering to a more mature woman. They're not trying to get high school students in their stores, and they're catering to the woman who wants to look put together, but also wants to be comfortable. And they're catering to a woman who values nice materials like cotton, like linen. They don't use a whole lot of things like polyester and acrylic because that's not their customer. Their customer is looking for quality, but they don't want to sacrifice comfort for it. Now, why it's important to know, for example, J. Jill's target audience is when you know that their target audience is the woman who doesn't want to sacrifice comfort but wants to look put together, it kind of makes sense then why their dress pants don't really get a lot of attention, why they take a long time to move, and why they don't sell for very much. Because yes, while J. Jill does sell career clothing, that's not necessarily what they're known for. I think women of that same demographic, a little bit more mature of a woman, if she's looking for career wear, she might get a couple pieces at J. Jill, but really the place to go is somewhere like Loft or Ann Taylor or Banana Republic. That is going to serve the more professional, mature woman, whereas J. Jill is catering more to someone's comfort. So what that tells me is if I find a pair of dress pants from J. Jill at the thrift store, even if it's made of 100% cotton, even if it's in a really good size, that's not really what J. Jill is known for. That's not really what people go to J. Jill to shop for. And so that tells me this is probably not something that I should pick up. On the flip side, I do pick up career pants from stores like Talbot's. I think Talbot's is known for their career wear clothing for the more mature woman. And so when I do carry career wear pants from Talbot's, still not an exciting pickup, still won't sell instantaneously most likely, but they're gonna sell faster than the same pants from J. Jill. They're gonna sell for a little bit more, and generally that's because there's more people looking for that kind of clothing from a brand like Talbot's than from a brand like J. Jill. Another great example of this, I think, is Levi's. We know that Levi's sells great denim, and that's what we turn to Levi's for. Levi's also has outerwear, and I'm not talking just about their denim jackets. I'm talking about like winter coats. I don't know about you, but I don't know anyone that's like, I really want that new Levi's coat. That's just not what they're known for. So even though outerwear is the first place that I'm gonna go to at the thrift store, if I see a winter parka from Levi's, I'm gonna really think long and hard about whether or not I wanna pick that up, because that's not what Levi's is known for. There are not going to be a lot of people searching for a Levi's parka on Poshmark or eBay or Mercari, because I don't even know if people know that Levi's makes parkas. Did you know that they make parkas? I had to actually search on Poshmark before I made this video to see, does Levi's do winter coats? They do, but who's looking for that? So it's important to know a little bit about the brand that you have before you, what they're known for, and that information is what you should use to decide whether or not to pick up that item or not. The next tip is to look at the materials tag. The truth is, even if the brand isn't super exciting, if it's made of high-end materials like silk, like cashmere, wool, alpaca, if something is made of those materials, even if the brand is not super exciting, that item can sell for a good amount. For example, there is a Macy's house brand called Charter Club. I don't think there's a lot of value in Charter Club. That being said, Charter Club does have a line of cashmere sweaters. And you better believe that even though it says Charter Club on the tag, I will pick those sweaters up all day, every day, because I can usually sell those for around $40, $50. And that's because it doesn't matter the brand. If something is made of 100% cashmere and it's in good condition, make sure you look over cashmere for lots of little holes that can appear, same with wool. But if it's in good condition and it's 100% cashmere, you've got money on your hands. It doesn't matter if it says Forever 21 on the tag. It won't, because Forever 21 doesn't use cashmere. But the brand really doesn't matter if it is made of a higher end material. So again, thinking about some more mature mall brands, brands like J.Jill, brands like Talbot's, even Loft, if you can find things that are made of 100% linen, or sometimes they'll have things that are made of 100% wool, those things are going to be worth so much more than if they're made of polyester or acrylic. You want to make sure that things are made of natural materials, and if you can find clothing items that do have those higher end natural materials, they're going to sell for more than their synthetic counterparts. So again, if anything is 100% cashmere, 100% silk, it almost doesn't matter what the brand is, that thing is probably going to sell for pretty good money. The next tip I have is to pay attention to recency. And what that means is, when was the item in front of you released? When is it from? Because like I shared in my example of Maurice's versus Reformation, if you find a Reformation dress, but it's from 8 years ago and that trend is just not very popular anymore, it doesn't matter that it's Reformation. It's not gonna sell for very much. This is especially important when it comes to mall brands, when it comes to bread and butter brands. And the good news is there are a lot of brands that make this really easy. Brands like Banana Republic and J. Crew and American Eagle, they actually have a little tiny tag underneath the care tag that will tell you the date that something was released. If you look at that and something is actually from like 5 or 6 years ago, unless it's still a really trendy style, you probably want to leave that behind, because when it comes to these more easy to find mall brands, really the only kinds of things that are probably going to make good money for you are the things that are very recent, within the last like 2 years, I would say. This is something that I know even stores like Plato's Closet are extremely mindful of. When they get denim from American Eagle, or when they get sweaters and tops and things like that from places like Madewell and J. Crew, they will look at the tag to see when the item is from, because that's going to help them inform whether or not they want to buy that piece or not. Another way that you can kind of check on the recency of an item is to study label tags of different brands. So for example, a brand like Cabby, there is an old Cabby and a new Cabby, and the difference between their two labels is very obvious. Same goes for a brand like Eileen Fisher. That label has gone through a lot of different iterations, and so you want to know which is the most current label that is being used right now on newer Eileen Fisher pieces. I think a really great example of this is Levi's. Not only has the label changed, but you can even tell the age of a pair of Levi's jeans by like how many tags there are as part of the care tag or materials tag. And also with Levi's, there's indicators on their pocket, like if it's a lowercase e, or if the little tag on the pocket is orange versus red. There are all these indicators to tell you how old a piece is. And sometimes it's helpful to know, because while recency does matter, We also know that vintage sells really, really well. And that's a way of knowing if something is truly vintage or not, is by knowing which tags are vintage tags and which tags are more current. Same goes with the date tag. Usually brands like American Eagle and those types of brands, they were not putting the date on truly vintage items. But for example, Tommy Hilfiger would put the date back in the day on their tags. And so you'll see things that are from the 90s and you'll know it's from the 90s because it said so on the tag. And so knowing when something is from will really help you know if that's an item you should pick up or not. You either want it to be super, super recent or from a very long time ago. Obviously, when it comes to bread and butter, and this goes for anything, if it's new with tags, it's gonna be worth more. And if it's in good condition, it's gonna be worth more. This is especially important with bread and butter brands. If it's not in good condition, don't pick it up. Unless it's like highly sought after vintage, it's just not worth picking up because it's already hard enough to get top dollar for a bread and butter item as it is. It's gonna be even harder if it's not in very good condition. But obviously new with tags items are going to command the most money. So if you're able to find things that are new with tags, that's very helpful. The next tip is to pay attention to the size. For most brands, small sizes just are not going to sell as well as larger sizes. So especially some of these more mature brands that I was talking about, brands like J. Jill, brands like Chico's, those brands do better in larger sizes because when you look at the demographic of women who are shopping from those stores, there are more women who wear larger sizes than wear the very small sizes. So when you find an item at the thrift store that is in a size extra small petite, that item better be super special. It better be made of 100% cashmere and it better be new with tags if you're gonna pick it up, because most likely if you're finding an extra small piece from J. Jill, it's just gonna take a lot longer to sell. Even if it's really cute, if it doesn't have a lot of other things that we've been talking about in this video, chances are you're gonna sit on that for quite some time. Now, on the flip side, there are some brands that actually do better with the smaller sizes because of the clientele that shops those stores. So for example, a comment that I got on my 22 women's bread and butter brands video was that they actually had an easier time selling smaller size jeans from Abercrombie & Fitch than jeans in larger sizes. And that's because when you think about who's shopping at Abercrombie & Fitch, it is a lot of high school girls. It's a lot of even middle schoolers and maybe, you know, people in college. And while there are middle school, high school, college girls who are wearing larger sizes, there are also just a lot more wearing, you know, size extra small, size small, and that's because they're still growing. And so this goes back to my earlier tip of you need to know a little bit about your brand. You need to know a little bit about who they're catering to, who their customer is, and that will help you make informed decisions in regards to when you're looking at an item and you see the size, is this a good size for that brand? This next tip I think is pretty amazing, and that is if you're able to bundle like items together from bread and butter brands, you can make some good money. For example, years ago, my son grew out of his size 2 clothing and, you know, he was a toddler. We're not buying clothes from nice brands for him because he's gonna grow out of them within, you know, a few months. So a lot of his clothes were from like Carter's, Baby Gap, Oshkosh B'gosh, you know, those kinds of brands. But what I did was I found 10 t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, and I bundled them together, and those 10 t-shirts sold for $50 on eBay. Even though the brands were kind of whatever, just by throwing a bunch of them together, I was able to make some good money on that bundle. When I was doing my research for the women's bread and butter brands video, I was looking at what made good money from Maurice's, and one thing I saw as I was doing my research is that people were so smart and they were selling bundles from things that they had from Maurice's. So for example, I guess there's like a popular type of cami, like a spaghetti strap tank top from Maurice's. I was seeing people bundle together, you know, different kinds of like Henley t-shirts, and they would make a little bundle and sell it for way more than you would be able to sell one item for. You know, a lot of times in these kinds of videos, resellers will tell you it's not worth listing something if it's only gonna make you $5 or something. But if you take a lot of things that will make you $5 and put them together, now we're talking. Now you're making one listing, you're only shipping all of those things at one time, but because you're being smart about it, you can make some good money that way. Obviously, when it comes to bundling, you wanna make sure that that you're bundling things that are the same size. You want to make sure that you are bundling things that are of a similar style. So, all long sleeve t-shirts or all career pants or all denim shorts from Target. You don't want to create outfits for people. You don't want to be like, hey, here's a pair of career pants from Loft in a size 6, a blouse in a size 12 from Chico's, and a nice blazer from Express in a size 2. You can buy all 3 of these pieces for $100, right? Like, that makes no sense. You want to make sure that the person who is looking for these tank tops to wear underneath certain kinds of clothing, you want to make sure that they see 3 of them in one bundle, all in their size, all similar styles, all from the same brand. That's how you make the sale on a bundle rather than bundling super random things together. The final tip that I have for you is never stop learning. Right now, you're doing a great thing by watching this video and learning more about bread and butter brands. There are tons of other YouTubers out there who are making similar content who are gonna have so much information. Again, I'll plug Kaylee Elaine's Resellers Edge University again, because it is a great resource if you wanna learn more about what's popular right now and how to make sales based on style. And it's a great place to ask questions. It's a great place to get feedback. It's a great place to brainstorm with like-minded people in their Facebook group. So if you want a little bit more of a handheld approach to all of this, I would definitely check that out. And again, the link is down in the description below. But just keep being a part of this community. Just keep watching YouTube videos, get on Instagram. And you know what I mean? If you finish consuming a piece of content and you feel worse about yourself than when you first started, that's not someone you should be following. If someone motivates you and inspires you to be your best, those are the kinds of people that you want to follow, because when you're done consuming their content, you're ready to hit the ground running. You're ready to do your best and grow. And that's the content I am hoping I am making and creating for all of you. I want you to feel empowered. And even if all you have access to are brands like Old Navy and Wild Fable from Target, know that you can still make good money selling those brands. And I say that because I know I have made good money selling those kinds of brands as well. So that is it for today's video. Those are my 9 tips when it comes to making as much money as you can from bread and butter brands. I hope that this was helpful for you. If it was, don't forget to hit that like button. If you haven't watched that video about the 22 women's bread and butter brands that you should be on the lookout for and what kinds of things from those brands you should be looking for, you can check that video out right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.